Russ.
Thank you, Chairman. And first of all, could I thank the Rehab directors for coming in eventually. And I suppose I should say that the session so far has reminded me more of Hamlet without the princess or the prince than anything else. And that what we've got now is we've got you as kind of second best explaining what happened and apologising for not being able to tell us a lot of what we wish to know. That's regrettable, and I think that it emphasises the need for us to bring in Mr. Flannery and Ms. Cairns even more so because of your either inability or refusal or the constraints on you to answer the questions that we wish to know the answers for. And it seems to be quite obvious, and maybe you can confirm this, that the company or the group was being run by the executive and that the board was not necessarily in control of what was going on. I don't know whether you think that's fair or not, but I think the fact that you have admitted fault is very helpful in that we can identify the problems. The solution are more difficult to do so. But in view of what you said, Mr. Kerr, particularly about the lapses which have occurred, could you tell me who's calling the shots at Rehab?
Well, in theory, the board are calling the shots, but we leave the actual day-to-day running to the executive.
In practice, would it be fair to say that you had control of the executives, that you were vigilant over the executives, in view of what you said yourselves about the lapses and the faults that you had?
We felt that we did have control.
You felt you did have control?
Yes.
And do you still think that?
I think we do.
And what do you feel then, in the light of that, what do you feel about the payments to Lara?
Well, I think you've already got an answer to that.
Okay. Do you feel they were wrong?
I think if we delved further, maybe we might have taken a different view. But at the time, they seemed okay.
What happened when they came to the board?
What happened when they came to the board? The board considered, they didn't really come to the board because they were handled by the executive in the way that normal actual consultancy would. We were aware that there was consultancy going on, and that was that.
You were aware that Mr. Flannery was being paid large sums of money?
We were aware that Mr. Flannery was involved in the lobbying, yes.
Did you ask how much he was being paid then?
No, we didn't ask, to my knowledge.
And he was on the board at the time?
Not all of the time,
no,
some of the time.
And he was being paid money, you didn't ask how much he was being paid?
Well, when he was on the board, Deputy, we knew what he was being paid because it was declared in the annual report each year.
Yeah, but before that you didn't ask
Prior to that, these were matters dealt with directly by the executives.
And this was therefore, this was a payment made with the approval of Angela Cairns?
I think that's what Keith said. That
correct.
Yeah, correct.
No, I'm trying to find out who actually is in control of this company. That's why I'm asking this question. Yeah. So these payments were made by the Chief Executive, with the approval of the Chief Executive, apart from when he was on the board, unknown to you?
Yes.
Okay. And so she was in control of that. On the coffins issue, I think Mr. Poole said that it was a Mr. Lombard who was reporting on that issue, and he was reporting to Ms. Cairns as well. Is that right?
Mr. Horgan.
Sorry, Mr. Horgan. Sorry, I apologise. He was reporting to Ms. Cairns as well?
Correct.
So in effect, the control of both those was in the control of the executive and really at arm's reach from the board at the best. At
arm's length, yes.
Okay. And you still think you were in control of the company?
Yes.
Okay. How was the attendance at last month's, at the February the 27th meeting here decided then?
How was
the attendance? Who was to attend? Why did you not turn up?
Because I wasn't aware that I was actually invited.
You call that a miscommunication, is that right?
Yes.
What happened?
Well, I understand that there was a request from the committee that the chairman of the Remuneration Committee should attend. That didn't seem to come through. Certainly, I never was aware of that particular situation. And I assumed that all these questions would be answered by the Chief Executive and those who were on the team at the time.
So they didn't tell you that you were invited?
I wasn't aware of that I was invited.
Were you kept in the loop about everything?
I thought I was.
Seems to me if you weren't kept in the loop about being invited to an Oireachtas committee,
To
it's
be
an
frank
extraordinary
now,
failure.
to be frank now, I wouldn't really be rushing to come here if I could avoid it.
Hopefully, we won't have to ask you again, Mr. Gunn.
Can I write that down?
Chairman,
Yeah.
Chairman, perhaps I could address the question very properly raised by Deputy Ross. My recollection of the situation at the time was we received the formal letter. We Rehab group, I'm not sure if it was addressed to Angela Kearns. We received the formal letter of invitation with the 4 items, 4 agenda items at the top of the letter. And I think the wording of the letter was something like inviting Ms. Kearns and her officials to attend and so on. Apparently, and I still haven't seen the email, but apparently subsequently an email was sent to Angela Kearns, I believe. I haven't seen the email. And I do recall a discussion. I don't recall who else was there for the discussion. And the discussion was around who was going to attend at the meeting. And the decision had already been made based on the letter which we had received that the appropriate people to attend were Angela Kearns as Chief Executive and her 3 senior managers, who each of whom had a responsibility for one of the specific items on the agenda. And I think I am correct just in saying that nowhere in the agenda was there reference to remuneration. So in any event, I do recall Angela Kearns mentioning the fact that there was a suggestion or whatever. I don't recall exactly what words were used, that the Remuneration Committee might attend. Ms. Kearns said that she had spoken with the clerk about how many were expected from Rehab Group, and I believe that the clerk indicated to Ms. Kearns, and this is me repeating what I believe Angela said to me, was that the conversation was, the reason she made the call was, how many are you expecting from Rehab Group? And that the response indicated that because there were people coming from the Department of Justice, the Department of Social and Family Affairs and HSE and so on, it was all going to be very, very crowded, and about that 4 or 5 would be about the number. So that seemed to fit. Sorry, that didn't seem to leave room for the chairman and members of the Remuneration Committee to come, and we didn't appear on the agenda in any event. So I'm just giving you my honest recollection of what sort of communication was taking place.
Would that be in keeping with what the clerk?
Clarify this. It's never a question of not having room to accommodate witnesses, Mr. Governing. We would always find space for you. You can always be assured of that. we did contact Rehab. We did ask them to attend. The meeting then made it perfectly clear who they wanted to attend, how the delegation should be, or the witness list should be made up. And there is no doubt in our minds but that Rehab, through the clerk, were made absolutely clear about what was required of them. Absolutely clear. And in fact, at that meeting, the last meeting, I questioned Ms. Kearns as to whether or not she had informed Mr. Flannery. And she did not give us a straight answer. And it's clear to me that there is no issue in relation to how we issue the invitation. There was no ambiguity as to who we wished to attend. And that there is an attempt being made, not by you, but by others, to muddy the waters in relation to the invitation. So let's be clear about it. Rehab, Angela Kearns, through our clerk, knew exactly what was required for that meeting. And in my opinion, decided for herself that she would invite who she wished to attend and ignored the wish of the Public Accounts Committee. That is the factual position. And anyway, it has been reported in through various media outlets, the commentary from that meeting. Now, I'm not taking issue with you. It's just a red herring, the whole thing about the invitation and who didn't know or who didn't know. It's obvious that Ms. Kearns decided for herself who was going to attend. And I actually made the point at the last meeting that perhaps Mr. Flannery was here and didn't even know he was in the House and didn't even know he was expected to be at the Public Accounts Committee. We still haven't got to the end of that. In fact, a response from Angela Kearns on behalf of Rehab following that meeting was short of a lot of facts, attempted further to create issues around the basic questions that members are asking. Sorry, Deputy Ross, that's
fine. Yeah,
clarifying the matter.
I think the point that Chairman's making, and I'd probably put it more bluntly, is this, that it's becoming increasingly, looks like, particularly as the Chairman wasn't kept in the loop about this, that the board of Rehab was simply a rubber stamp for the Chief Executive. That's what it's beginning to look like. And that she told you what she felt like telling you. And if you didn't know about this, Mr. Kerr, and that you were requested to come here when it was absolutely clear that we wanted you, it means that you were being kept in the dark. And it means the board of Rehab was therefore not a proper board at all, but it was being run by the executive. Now, let me come on to pay. If I could just ask Mr. Doyle something. You were chairman of the Remuneration Committee. Under what code of corporate governance was this committee working?
We had our own articles, as it were, which spelled out the duties that I've summarised for you in the presentation.
So there wasn't really a code of governance at all?
Well, we had taken a good deal of advice in around 2007, and we had asked, I think it was one of our firm of accountants and lawyers to draw up I suppose, guidelines for the operation of the committee in relation to the overall memorandum and articles of the company. So we did that, and that spelled out what we should do in terms of our duties in respect of the GMT and the Chief Executive. So it did combine, I think, all the elements that you would expect in a remuneration committee.
There was no actual code which you abided by. You didn't abide by anything about board membership or length of board membership. I still don't know how, in the name of God, you re-elected your members or appointed your members. How were they appointed? It says they were elected every year. By whom?
By the board.
Sorry, by who?
Ratified by the board.
By whom was the board elected every year?
The board, at an AGM each year, people retired by rotation and were re-elected by the board.
So it was just self-perpetuating.
Well, you could say that, but in fact, over the last, I suppose, 10 years, the board, 50% of the board would have been replaced, roughly.
Yeah. How were they replaced?
Nominations committee?
Yeah, exactly.
Nominations committee proposing to the board voting.
Yeah, so board members nominating new board members to current board members, and that's how it goes on.
It was quite a mix of board members, Senator. I mean, there's deputy.
Yeah.
They came from all kinds of different walks of life. You know, on our board now, there's about 10 people, of which I would say 5 are people from the regions who have been involved regionally with the rehab fundraising activities and local community activists, as it were. Then there's a few of us who will be Dublin-based. Then there are other people who would have a particular interest in what we do in our mission and goals. So we are quite a broad-based board. There is clearly a problem over length of service. I mean, 26 years is a long time to be on a board.
And 32 is even longer.
And 32 is even longer. And that's an issue that with Dr. Eddie Beloy we are going to address, I can tell you, and we will be addressing it with dispatch.
Okay. Could you tell me something about pay? Ms. Cairns told us last time at the committee that her pay had not been reduced this year. She issued a solicitor's, through a solicitor last night, a letter which I'm sure you've seen, saying that that was incorrect. In other words, she misled this committee on that. You confirm that? You can confirm that?
I'm not going to be drawn to Ms. Cairns, but
No, but
you've seen her
letter. What she says.
Well, she said it. She said it. Did she send you a letter?
Do you agree with her?
Well, I agree with the contents of her letter.
Okay.
It's what she said.
So,
she's correcting it.
So it was higher at some stage this year.
I'm not going to be drawn down that road. I think we are all clear with the legal position.
You're telling me then if that had remained on the record of this committee, you would have said nothing about it?
Deputy, if I've been asked a question, I will answer the questions I'm asked to the best of my ability, but there is a law in this land, and we've received a letter from Ms. Cairns spelling out her rights and her entitlements. I have to respect it.
You're confirming it was higher anyway. That was incorrect. You confirm what she says in the letter.
You don't need me to confirm it. I mean, she
I
said
do.
it.
I do
Well,
need to.
Okay, yes.
Okay, that's fine. Could you tell me then about the bonuses? We've touched on the 2012 bonuses. How can you justify paying bonuses in 2012? You say, but I want to know what the performance is. It's all very well you saying you think you explained it. I don't think you did. What were the performance bonuses? How can you justify them? What were the targets set?
Well, the way it works is that each year the Chief Executive will set out specific achievable targets for the individuals in the different divisions. And if they achieve and over-exceed those targets, they are rewarded accordingly. I think it would be measure of service delivery. For example, in terms of the healthcare, it would be number of people placed in job in terms of education, those kind of things that are relevant to their particular areas of responsibility. And then she would have submitted to our committee a schedule of payments she deemed appropriate, and if the committee agreed, we would sanction them. That's the way it worked.
Did the committee agree to what she suggested in 2012?
Oh, with minor adjustments here and there, yes.
Upwards?
No.
Downwards?
Yes, in some cases.
Did these bonuses 2012 are outrageous at that time when other people were taking cuts and there was people being laid off. Apart from, did everybody accept the bonus?
Not all staff accepted bonuses, no.
Did everybody at the top accept bonuses?
But we're talking about the GMT now.
Yes.
We're talking about the general management team.
Yeah.
I'm not, well, we've declared what we said, and you've seen the schedule of people who got those bonuses. That's been provided to you earlier, as I understand it. And that represents the situation. So what, I don't quite understand.
I'm asking you how many people didn't accept bonuses of the top 8, I think it is.
I believe it was about 2 or possibly 3.
Didn't?
Didn't, yeah.
Who were they?
I think that's in the schedule, isn't it? Is it in the schedule you received, the people who received bonuses?
Yes, there were 2 of us who didn't.
Exception 2 didn't.
Who were they?
Keith?
Myself and the Director of HR.
Why didn't you accept a bonus?
I didn't accept my bonus, I guess, because of the challenges that were facing the organisation, I believed. We had closed some services in Scotland in 2012. We had just wound up a pension scheme. We had made some people redundant.
Sorry, yeah, yeah,
We had just wound up our pension scheme.
yeah.
From recollection, we'd made people redundant in Ireland, some people, and none of my staff had received a pay increase for the last 5 years.
So you didn't accept a bonus, and it was the head of human resources, was it?
Yes.
As well, who didn't accept a bonus.
Correct.
And everybody else did in the GMT.
They were awarded bonuses. They had worked exceptionally hard, delivered exceptional results, and I think, I suppose, they're right. They accepted the bonuses, just as it was other staff members' right not to accept the bonuses. Let's remember now that we are talking about a quite successful organisation that has weathered a very, very difficult time through the since this crisis began. And our activities are not purely and simply in Ireland. Our international activities, our UK activities, Scotland, England, we have activities in the Netherlands, we have activities in Poland. These are the team of people that were managing that. So they had put in exceptional effort.
You have two people on your...
Yeah.
You have two people who disagree with you to the extent
Yes.
that they wouldn't take it.
Correct. I understand that. And they are entitled to their views. But the other people were rewarded for work hard earned and well done.
What was the size of the bonuses?
I beg your pardon, just one
No.
piece of information. Two of the current members of the GMT weren't in the position in 2013, so they wouldn't have received any bonuses in respect to 2012. Sorry, in case I gave the wrong
What were the
impression.
size of the bonuses?
They ranged from 6,000 to 14,200, as already in your pack.
Okay. Let me just, can you just explain a few, oh yeah, the Tower Watson report. We've got this redacted version. And maybe you could just explain something to me. It's the Director of Training. How do we get to a situation? Is this the hierarchy which exists, where the Chief Executive, who's redacted, and it gets, I think it's 240,000 anyway, it's around that. And the Director of Training and Employment Services gets 174,000. And then the Director of Health and Social Care Services gets 157, and then Director of Finance gets 152. Is that the hierarchy?
The Director of Health and Social Care Services, sorry, I beg your pardon, the Director of Training and Employment Services is a special case because she took over a huge amount of additional responsibility in this year, because we had a director in the UK, he left, and she took over both the UK and Ireland. So it reflects an increased level of responsibility and work, hence her salary.
And it will remain at that level?
Well, pending review. As you know, we have to review all of this now in the light of the commitment that I gave earlier on to take account in our next review of not-for-profit and charity sectors.
And the Director of Health and Social Care Services?
All of these things are going to be reviewed, all of these.
Why is the Director of Health and Social Care Services getting more than, say, the Director of Finance?
Pardon?
She didn't?
The Director of Care Services is, I think on that list, is 150.
Yeah, 157 on the list I have here.
Oh, sorry, you're reading the
Yeah,
Tower Watson.
I'm reading from the Tower Watson report. Yeah. Why would that be? Why would they be getting more?
Excuse me, Deputy. Just to correct one thing, there's an error on that schedule. Her salary is not 157, it's 150. I apologise for that.
That explains it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Okay. All right. Can I go on to the next question? Yeah. I want to ask you about the auditors. How long have they been auditors?
I can answer that, Deputy, if you want.
Yes, please.
As long as I've been there. So I can go back 18 years anyway. So.
Okay. And Mr. Hogan, you're chairman of the audit committee.
Yes, ma'am.
Why have they been chairman for so long? Why have they been so long auditors? Have you reviewed them? Have you reviewed the audit? Have you put it out to tender?
Yes, we have.
You have?
Indeed. In the last couple of years,
Yeah.
there were 3 organisations bidding,
Yeah.
and the PwC retained the audit. They were all Big Four auditors, the Big Four, and because of their performance, it's very difficult to unseat a standing auditor. So I'm quite happy with it. The board is quite happy with PwC.
Is the cheapest?
Pardon?
Did they come in as the cheapest?
I can't remember, not necessarily. They may have come in the cheapest, but I can't remember the figures. But that wouldn't be the issue. The issue would have been, are we happy with them? Are they independent? Are they demonstrating independence? Do we trust them as professional, their professionalism?
One of the indications I'd take from that would be see whether they get much in the way of from other services, from Rehab in way of fees. Wouldn't that be fair?
That's a fundamental point.
And hasn't it been the case in the last 2 years they've got more in the way of fees than they have in the audit? Is it not?
That's correct.
Their audit fee is disclosed in our accounts. I think it's at €300,000.
Yeah.
So
So they got less. I'm sorry, then I'm
in other
incorrect there.
services,
Then I'm incorrect. It's been more. I'm sorry about that. Okay. Could I ask Mr. Kerr a question? Do you have a whistleblower policy?
Do we have a whistleblower policy?
Yes.
Yes, we do. But don't.
Why did you have to be prompted?
Why did I have to be prompted? Because I was trying to think about what was the follow-up question going to be. Now, I'm not a comedian, folks. I'm not in this for laughs. I genuinely was trying to work out, if we have one, what have we done with it?
Could you tell me what it is?
I can't tell you what it is.
Could somebody tell me what it is?
Can we produce that? A policy? No, we can get that. We get that to you
Yeah,
before the end of the day.
Well, maybe you could, someone on the board would know what the whistleblower policy is.
We will get that for you.
Can anybody help me?
I'm sure it's a pretty standard whistleblower policy that in the event you are concerned about something, that there is a number you ring, and that number will deal with the issue in confidence.
That could be the same as the Garda one.
But that's what happens. I mean, you know, generally speaking, companies that have confidential hotlines, there is a number that receives all these complaints, and if there are issues, they're brought to the attention of, say, the chief executive or the chairman, depending on what level it happens in the organisation, and ultimately to the board, I guess, if it's not been dealt with by either of the responsible authorities.
Well, I'm well aware of that.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I'm well aware of how they don't work as well. And I'm well aware of the fact that nobody on the board has a clue what sort of whistleblower policy you've got.
But we said we have one.
Yeah, and you don't know what it is. Okay.
That's what it is.
Have you had any complaints under the whistleblower policy?
None brought to the board.
Never.
To my knowledge, none. In my time at the board, never.
Have you ever inquired whether there were any complaints that you should be looking into that?
No.
Have you ever had a complaint from staff made to the board about anybody on the board?
There is a complaints policy. Yes. I've been just reminded of it. And there would be quite a lot of complaints in that. They wouldn't be brought to the level of the board unless they were, I guess, major grievances, because none have been brought to the level of the board, but they will be dealt with by HR and by the appropriate level within the organisation.
Okay. Could I ask Mr. Kerr, have any complaints ever been brought to you by any member of staff about senior members of the board? In your period there?
No, I don't think so.
Was there anything ever brought to your knowledge about Frank Flannery? Was any complaints brought to you about him?
Not to my knowledge, no.
None. Any complaints brought to you ever about Angela Cairns?
Yes.
Could you give us some detail?
No, I can't really, because that's confidential and it's being handled at the moment.
Sorry?
It's being handled at the moment.
Well, can you give us the nature of it, please?
There is a complaint which is confidential, which we received and is being handled by our experts at the moment,
Your experts.
by our lawyers.
And it's been brought, what's the nature? Can you give us the nature of the complaint?
I don't think I'd be allowed to do that,
Why not?
because we've been advised not to disclose such information. I'm not trying to hide anything.
You certainly are.
Well, then
That's exactly what you are doing.
Well, I'm only working on legal advice.
But this is very important. Okay, what have your lawyers told you about it?
It's in train at the moment, and it might prejudice anything if it was taken any further at this moment.
Are the other members of the board aware of this?
They are.
Okay, can you give us something about the nature? You don't have to identify. Can you give us something about the nature of the complaints? Is it about corporate governance?
No.
Is it about pay?
No. I'm not going any further. I've said enough, and that's the end of the, as far as I'm concerned, the end of that particular one. With due respect to you.
Okay. I mean, it would be helpful if this would shed any light on the inquiries which we are making today. You are underprivileged, you know that?
I'm aware of that.
So you could give us some help about the nature of these complaints, if they are relevant to the inquiries we're making of you.
I note what you say, but I can't go any further.
When was this complaint made?
In 2 months ago,
And what did you do with it?
I brought in the company lawyer.
You informed the board about it? And the company lawyer has told you not to reveal it to the Public Accounts Committee specifically?
Telephones, please.
And the company lawyer has specifically told you not to elaborate on it? Does this come from a junior member or a senior member of staff?
I've said what I've said, and I'm not going any further. Thank you.
Is it going to your whistleblower policy? Is it going to go through your whistleblower channels?
I have said what I've said.
I don't think you're going to get further with that, Deputy Ross.
I know.
It's a completely inadequate
But you've tried
response,
hard.
Cahill, with all due respect. We were promised transparency here and that you would deal with things
But I do
candidly.
think that you have to respect that this is a matter, a very sensitive matter that's been dealt with appropriately. I'm not sure it's entirely relevant to the deliberations of the committee, and I think it's quite unfair to pursue the chairman the way you've done. I think we should just leave that for the moment. Rest assured, if anything emerges from that is relevant to this committee, we will keep you informed.
I don't accept that.
Well, I know
I'm
you
afraid
understand.
I don't accept that for one moment, Chairman. I think this is very important, and that we could at least get the nature of what is being said, because we are looking specifically to have Ms. Cairns in here. She is not here. We hoped that we get some information on relevant facts from you, and you're withholding them from us, and you're doing it deliberately. I'm not asking you in any way to make allegations which are untrue. I'm asking you to give us the kind of nature of what's being said and whether they're important to the organisation of Rehab, and whether they would affect our view in the report we're going to make.
I can't see that they would. But that said, I really can't go any further. I've come up as far as I can on that.
Okay.
I really would like to be more helpful to you, but I can't.
Could you tell us?
Advise us in private session, Mr. Kerr.
I probably could, yeah.
You could help us in private session. Okay.
Yeah.
Can we go into private session, please, Chairman?
At your request, Deputy Ross.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Get permission.
I think with the greatest respect, Deputy, this has to be dealt with. I mean, there are two parties involved in this. There's the company and the individual that the chairman is referred to. I don't think really at this stage. But let's say we need to take advice on the matter, and then we'll come back to you, Chairman.
The Chairman has said he will go into private session and help us. I mean, let the Chairman speak for himself occasionally.
Well, he's already spoken.
Yeah.
Deputy Ross.
Yeah.
I've asked about the private session in order to facilitate both you and Mr. Kerr. And I understand fully why you would want the information or the committee would want it. But in fairness to the witnesses, I believe they should be at least given the opportunity to ask their legal advisor.
Do we adjourn while they do that?
We can continue on with the proceedings while someone goes out and asks.
And we can come back
But
to
it
it
would be
later.
of help to the committee in a broad term, in private session perhaps, if you, in a general way, that you could address the question. But please check, and we'll continue on with the hearing while that matter has been checked by perhaps someone from your side.
Do we have privilege in private session?
You do, yes.
There will be no transcript. I want to be clear. No, I just want the witness to know.
Sorry.
Yes, for the record. For the record.
Under privilege and a private session, and there's no written record or recording of it. But that's a matter, it's a question that has arisen. I'm asking it to be addressed in a fair way. I think that that's a fair way. So if you would ask someone on your side perhaps to check it, and we'll continue on with the questioning. That's okay. Please check your telephones, whoever has them on the desk, interfering with them. Okay.
I'll just finish off on this.
Sorry, before you do that, can you please check, because there's interference, if you remove your telephones from the main desks, please.
Could I just ask you a question, Chairman, about the... was it ever brought to your notice that there might be a sale of the premises in Sandymount?
We discussed the possibility on one occasion that I'm aware of, and we were looking at a removal to a complex in Clonskee. But in fact, we decided that that wasn't on.
And I remind you, Deputy Ross, that matter came before us in the context of correspondence, and we referred it to the Gardaí.
But I think I just want to know what the board
That's
knew
fine,
about.
that's okay. Yeah.
And how far did that get? How far did that get?
Not very far, because in fact, the Rosslyn Park is in fact was given for a small rent by the sisters who had occupied the place beforehand, and we felt that as a matter of it wouldn't be right to move at all. And in any event, the fact of the matter was that we thought the premises was adequate for what we were doing.
And was that someone approached you, did they?
No. I can say that I was around at the time.
Yeah.
And the premises in Rosalind Park are quite small. There's porta cabins there, and from time to time we've looked at it and said, will we move, will we not move? At that particular time, we went out and looked at one office in, I think it was the business park down near Clonskee, Beaver, which you'll probably be familiar with. We went and had a look at it. We didn't like it, and nothing ever happened. That was the end of the process as far as a board member, was concerned.
Just to reaffirm that there was a possibility of moving our head office to Clonskee. It was looked at, a subcommittee of the board looked at it, and it was deemed not to proceed any further. So that's the only time. The discussion regarding a sale of Rosslyn Park was just in the context of a possible move. We never ever discussed with anybody selling Rosslyn Park. It would be...
you never did as a board or as
no,
a
never.
executive?
No.
And when was that?
Oh, it was, I think it was 2004 or something like that. I can get
2004?
Yes.
So, and you weren't actually approached by anybody?
No, absolutely not.
And it never came to the notice of the board at all?
Never as a material issue, other than that time.
Okay, so it was simply, that was it. You considered it was your own initiative.
Out of the frame.
Maybe it'd move, and it never came to the notice of the board that there might be a developer looking at.
Never brought to the attention of the board. Never discussed at the board, never raised at the board.
That's fine. Thank you, Chairman.